All right, guys. So, Maul Shadow Lord seasons 1 and 2. So, or season one. We are done with season one, and guys, this was May the Fourth be with you. By the way, this was great. This was great. I would give these last two episodes, if you were to combine them, put them, just put them together. I would probably give this. I would probably give these last two episodes like a 7 out of 10. Okay, a little bit lower than I think what most people's gonna give it. Most of the people who are fans of it are gonna give it. I think we have a really good opportunity here in season two. I think they've set up a really great arc. Definitely had some things that surprises a little bit there in the films, but or in the episodes, but for the most part, it wasn't like that. I think that let's just recap a little bit here. So episode 9 um, is getting away, right? They're getting away, and they're trying to escape, right? And the droid. The funny thing, I don't know if you guys caught it. If you watch a lot of Disney and the Emperor's New Groove, the big thing is no touchy, no touchy. That droid said that, and that just made me think of the Emperor's New Groove. So that was really funny to see. That was Maul's droid when Riley touched him accidentally. So, Two Boots had a joke in there about reporting some waste that was illegally disposed of, and I think that's the thing that Disney needs to understand and grasp a little bit better is some of these jokes and things like that they're doing in other series, like when it comes to Star Wars, sometimes when it comes to other things like, oh, they fly now, like that just doesn't feel natural. Okay, but in this, they showcase they understand, and maybe they don't, but he said, I'll report this immediately. Well, maybe it's not the number one priority. Well, this is natural for a droid. That comedy relief that they're looking for, that natural comedy relief that us fans want, we got that there because he's a droid. You know, it's just like the droid in Rogue One and Andor. I mean, they are programmed a certain way. They don't understand the way some of these things work, like socially, and they don't grasp the environment. So I think that that's a really good way of inserting subtle jokes and funny nods. When we get into Mandalorian and Grogu in a couple weeks, when we go watch it, it's one of the things we're going to be worried about. Are they going to be inserting jokes and lighthearted things where it doesn't fit and it's not natural? Um, Droids can do that because it feels like they would not understand the situations, and so I think that was really really good. Now I just wanted to point that out. So now the little droid, Maul's little droid, he dies, and that was very interesting because they did set it up that at one point in the beginning I was like, oh, this is another throwaway, evil droid, whatever, and you actually cared about it a little bit. He cared for Maul, and that little droid. Um, to me, I think they did a great job with it. They made you actually care a little when it was sliced, and you know that's just tough. That's just tough. And you could tell that it hurt Maul. It hurt him, and that was cool. That was cool to see. I think they did a really good job with that in a subtle way. Um, but Docky can see what's happening in Episode 9. He can see what's happening. He can see what Maul's doing, and he can see it's having an effect on Devon. He knows what's happening there, and um, it's a good transition. It's a good progression. They went very slowly with it in the right ways, and Maul lets Docky jump first. In Episode 9, they're jumping, to get away from the Inquisitors, and Maul wants Docky to jump first. He tells him, go. That was really cool because it's little subtle things like that you don't think about. Those are the things that can turn a Devon to the dark side because she cares about her master. You have this other guy who's showing that he cares because, oh, you go first. I'll hold them off. Okay? Doesn't seem like a bad guy, right? He doesn't seem like a bad guy. And I think that that's the thing that we got to get to here is this is the way that Maul turns Devon eventually. But, Vader shows up. And that's how we end episode 9, which was really iconic. I almost wish they had saved this for episode 10, where he just shows up at the end, and then we start off with season 2 in anticipation of like, oh man, things are going to get wrecked now. But I get it. They wanted to showcase some of this, give fans, what they wanted in Vader on screen again. So, moving to episode 10, Vader easily handled them. One hand. He's sitting there one-handed. Three Force wielders, okay? Can't say Jedi because Maul's not one. But, 3 Force wielders. And he's just sitting there, one hand at a time. Basic parrying. I mean, it's insane to see this. Now, it's nice that they're fleeing from Vader. The mentality of the atmosphere of the tone of it in the beginning was they're just running and fleeing from Vader. They got to get away from this overpowering force, right? And I think they did that really well. And that's what we want to see from Vader. That's what we expect from him, the Jedi hunter that he is. And so the Empire was waiting for Lawson's group. Okay, now to me, this was a problem because when Lawson and them get to the rendezvous point where Crimson Dawn's going to get them, there's this ship there, and, it's you got all these soldiers. And to me, guys, the stakes were already high enough. They were already high enough. I don't think we needed to waste some screen time on that. I think we wasted a little bit of runtime there with it. And I get why they did it ultimately, because they, we'll talk about it here in a minute. But, I just think I would have liked to have seen more of Vader, more things of Maul and Vader and stuff like that. Like, I would have liked to have seen some dialogue. I would like to have heard something where Maul even acknowledges, or Vader even acknowledges Maul, saying, like later on, like if we spent more time in the fight, you could have got to this. But eventually, like, you killed my first master. Like things like that where Maul, like it shows that Vader still remembers Qui-Gon. And I think that would give a good nod to Qui-Gon, because everybody, believed that Qui-Gon was the Jedi Master for Anakin that was taken too soon. I think it would have been a really good nod for that. But, whatever, we didn't get there, and I get it, but I just feel like you raised the stakes so much where it felt like so much that you couldn't, there's no way they're going to get away. And the reason why is because, the fighting, you go back to this, the power inconsistency. Guys, Vader was handling them with one hand over and over, just parrying away every strike they had, and then the 2 Inquisitors come. And so you've got the 2 Inquisitors and Vader. They should have wrecked these 3 people in seconds. Okay? The fact that they failed, to me, brings down Vader in a notch. It's like, okay, well, what do? Sit and play with his food too much? Like, that's not how we're supposed to see Vader. That's not how we're supposed to know him. This is a guy that comes in and exterminates rodents, and he does it lethally. So that was upsetting, and we've talked about this over and over when it comes to, once the Disney era has taken place, is the inconsistency of power levels. And, someone pointed out to me on one of my shorts, they did something where, in the canon now, the way they used to do power levels and the way they used to do power in the Force, is all about balance. Even if you're a Sith or if you're a Jedi, being calm and in balance with the Force gives you more power, right? And I understand that, and sometimes that creates inconsistencies with characters that are more powerful, and they get defeated because they're not in balance at that point or whatever. I understand that dynamic can happen, but here Vader is in complete control. He's in complete balance, and he should have wrecked these 3 who were scared and running from him. I mean, there's no excuse for that. There's no excuse for why he couldn't just wreck house against those 3. And it's those inconsistencies that's really frustrating for me. They should have easily dispatched those 3 in seconds. with the way that they set it up. You know, then you know I can understand the three up against Vader. You know, maybe he can't find the right time to strike and take one of them out. I understand that, but when you brought the two Inquisitors in, it just felt like, hey, this is too much. They should have been dead already. Um, then he grabs, he in the middle of the duel, he grabs Maul with a force choke and just tosses him like a rag doll, into Daki. I mean, guys, this shows he was in balance. This shows he was in control. This shows that he was way powerful than them, and he should have been able to just kill them. That's really frustrating. The inconsistency of the power levels and the threats and stuff like that when it comes to the force wielders, it's really frustrating. It's really frustrating. Even under the new canon, this goes against that because Maul and the others were not in control. They were freaking out. They were worried. They were tired. Maybe Daki was, but you know, Maul was even worried. He was like, "What are you?" He couldn't understand what Vader was. And I think, again, if we had some dialogue and he could give some hints to Maul, maybe that would have been cool, right? But Maul leaving Daki to die, you know, that was a nice touch. It was a nice touch the way they did it, the way he did it. He pushed him into Darth Vader's way a little bit and, ran. And Daki was disposed of quickly after that, which should have happened even, earlier on, like we were talking about. But Devon didn't see it, and that's the thing. Devon did not see what happened, and Maul was precise in how he did that, how he eliminated Daki from the equation. And Devon, that's what turned her. That's what got her to go to the dark side. Eventually that's what made her say, hey, all right, that's what broke her, right? And we thought that Riley would do that. We thought that Riley would break her. That was something we anticipated, was maybe there's a connection there. But that didn't happen. That was saved a little for later because, Lawson goes out and, Captain Lawson goes out and he gets killed. Protecting his son and stuff. And that's fine. To me, that was like a nothing burger. It didn't really matter. But I think when you have someone like, Maul, and you have these characters, like some of them have to be cannon fodder, some of them have to die, and it gives a good story. I think for Riley, it gives him some kind of redemption arc, maybe. We'll have to see what happens with the character in Season 2. Hopefully he sticks around. I would like to see him stick around, maybe help them in a way, or maybe, try and pull Devon back to the light side in some capacity. I don't know, and maybe Devon struggles with it. But toward the end, she saw the pain that Riley had too. And that's what, first she broke, right? And that's the thing, like even Jedi, even some of the best Jedi, they can break and they can experience some anger and frustration and stuff like that and have a moment of bending to the dark side. But once she made a conscious decision, she's not redeemable now. She is no longer a Jedi. And I think that was cool for her to see the pain of Riley, help that to push her and consciously say, I'm done. I have to leave it behind because I have to get stronger. I have to kill them because I hate them. She said, I will kill them. And so, she was furious. She was angry, and she wants to now go after Vader and the Inquisitors and stuff. So I think it was cool. I think they did a really good job. The way they ended it, and she looks at Maul and says, all right, I'm ready. So Maul now has his prized apprentice, and we will see in Season 2 where things go with Devon and Maul. I am so excited for it. This is one of the few series or movies at this point that at the end, super excited. Have not had that in a long time, and this has given that to us because Season 3 of Mandalorian did not give us that at all when it ended. So I'm excited. I think it's great, and we will see where the series goes from here. What did you guys think? Ultimately, we're going to rate the entire series, putting everything together. We would give it an 8 out of 10. That's a really high rating for us. We do tend to be low on our ratings, but this was awesome. The only things that I think pulled me out of this was a couple of the story pieces. A couple of the story pieces were like kind of throwaway and kind of filler for the runtime. And I think that, again, the inconsistencies of the battles and the duels, that's the thing that bothers me. At this point in this era, Vader should be someone who just comes in, like I said, and dispatches of rodents like an exterminator and has no hesitation. That didn't happen, and that was a little frustrating. So those are a couple things that kind of notch it down a little bit in our opinion. I think they could have dived into a few things a little bit more, showcased things a little bit better, and some of the inconsistencies of the fighting was a huge thing for us, and the power levels. But anyway, what did you guys think? Let us know down in the comments below. We would love to hear from you. Out of 10, what would you rate Maul Shadow Lord? And, are you excited for the Mando Grogu movie coming up? We will be there in theaters to check it out. And you guys can see our reaction and everything to that here in a few weeks. If you guys like the content, like and subscribe to the channel. We would greatly appreciate it. Check out some of our other content here. We do some different takes, Harry Potter and stuff like that as well. But if you just want to do Star Wars, we do have a playlist for that too. And we'll catch you guys on the next video. Thank you so much for tuning in. And remember, Christ is King.